What's going on today, team? Today we're back in the gym and we're gonna be hitting legs again, but I wanna go over some safety precautions and some procedures. I wanna emphasize stretching, I wanna emphasize setups, and I wanna emphasize something called a safety bar. My gym just got it, I'm gonna show you how to use it. Let's get it done. So you know me, one of my favorite things to do is warm up. When I warm up, I get nice and limber, I start to sweat, and my heart rate goes up just a little bit so that I'm primed for the activity. The first thing we're gonna go over is static stretching, and then we're gonna go over dynamic stretching. There's two differences that you need to be aware of with those. Static stretching is stretching and holding the position, while dynamic stretching is stretching with movement. Check these movements out, follow along, and I'll explain some things along the way. So let's talk about some reasons why we static stretch and when is an appropriate time to do it. Realistically, you can static stretch any time of the day, but in regards to activity, I usually like to do this after I warm up. Because think of it like this, if you're a rubber band that's fresh out the pack and you haven't been stretched, if you pull it a little bit too hard, it could snap. That rubber band has to be warmed up, it has to be a little bit loose before it gets that pliability that you're really looking for when you use the rubber band. It's the same thing with the tendons and the ligaments. You want it to be a little bit warm before you engage. That'll reduce injury and that will increase performance and results. You can incorporate dynamic movements first to get some blood flow to the area and to prime the joint and the area that you're going to use. Dynamic stretching involves you going into a physiological range where it's a little uncomfortable and then out of that range immediately. And you're doing that for repetitions. The benefits for both types of stretching is injury prevention, increased performance, increased blood flow, and it provides neurological signaling for your body to adapt to whatever situation you're about to engage in. All right, I'm gonna let you know something right now. I know this is you. Ever since you started working out, you've been having these weird aches and pains that you cannot explain that just happen randomly. Maybe you're slow to get up in the bed in the morning. Maybe your knees ache a little bit when you're sitting down or trying to stand up. Maybe when you reach up to grab a plate from a cabinet, your lats feel a little bit tight and you can't stretch as much. And I'm gonna give you the reason why I know this is you. It's because you don't stretch. You go right into your workout. You don't even cool down after. You just go and stimulate the muscle and you work within such a small range of motion that it really does more harm than good. So I'm gonna give you a couple movements that you can do, which are gonna incorporate a full body warm up so that that's no longer your case. You have a problem you didn't know you have and I'm gonna correct it today. Normally when you work out, you do singular plane movements. By this, I mean movements that happen in one plane. So either you're going like this or you're going like this. You're never doing anything like this and you're never doing anything that incorporates multi-planar movements. So what we're gonna do is work with warming up in those planes. Follow along with these stretches and movements and you'll be performing a lot better than you were yesterday. Your knees ache and you swear you have stability problems, and it's not that, I promise you. It's because your body's just not used to accessing those planes with resistance, force, or motion. The body works in responses, which means that it needs a signal in order for something to be done. And the body's real efficient. So if you start training in full ranges and start accessing planes that you don't normally do, you'll be better off. You can catch yourself when you slip or fall. You can handle more weight in your exercises. And lastly, it helps with injury prevention in your exercises and your daily activity. This dynamic warm-up is gonna work on multiplanar movements so that the whole body gets nice and loose before we begin our intense workout today. Follow along, let's get it. We're all warmed up now. It took about half an hour. Heart rate's at 107, burned about 211 calories, and I'm sweating now. So let's get this workout. That's how your warm-ups are supposed to be. You're supposed to feel it, you're supposed to feel good, and you're supposed to be primed and ready for some action. So I'm starting my workout today with some safety bar squats. And I'm using this so I can emphasize more focus on my quads as I power up through the movement vertically. And the reason it's called a safety bar is because you have padding. So if you don't have your squat set up correct yet and the bar bothers your back, this will be a good substitution for you. So I'm gonna use a safety bar for this demonstration, but this goes for any type of setup that you have when you're using a bar and you need to unrack it. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make is setting up improperly. And with that, I mean the bar being too high. Right now, the bar is about where my mouth is, and you'll see what happens when I set up. So now in order to unrack it, instead of just standing up, I have to get on my tiptoes and walk out, which is incorrect because that's dangerous on your Achilles. And as you start to load weight onto the bar and it gets heavier, that task will be impossible. The next way that y'all set up wrong is by having the bar too low. The bar is where my xiphoid process is, which is right below my chest. And with this, I have to squat down and initiate in a squat already just to lift the bar. That takes a lot of energy. And I know when you're working out with a partner, sometimes it's easier to do that, especially if your partner is smaller, but that's just an unsafe practice. The way that I like to set up when I squat, and this is for mainly high bar squats. I know if you power lift and you do a low bar squat, it's gonna be different, but I like to have the top of my shoulder in line with the bar. That way I can get underneath, slide in, and execute efficiently. Take my 2 steps back, and I'm ready to squat. I need to address something I see all the time. I'm tired of seeing you squat and it looks painful. I know it's heavy, but it shouldn't be painful. It's a difference between grit and grinding it out versus you being in pain. And I know it's because you don't squat correctly. Check this out. The first movement that you do when you squat, especially when you're in a high bar stance, meaning the bar is sitting on top of your traps, is you hinge forward and then go down. So now the weight is no longer aligned with your center of gravity, and now the weight is on your neck. So now you're going down, your body mechanics are all jacked up. You can't lift weights like that. How are you gonna squat a bar like this? That don't make any sense. Did you even see my hips? I just had a hip dip. Incorrect form and technique. Check this out. The first thing that happens before you go down is you need to brace. So fill your abdomen up with air. So that means activate your diaphragm to expand your abdominal cavity. Use your core to brace, and that is the first step. From there, make sure your feet are aligned, and of course, make sure the weight is properly aligned on top of you when you unrack it. Only thing that's happening after that is you just descending straight down. Your spine should be straight and erect as your core is keeping you nice and stabilized so that you don't laterally flex, rotate, or tilt in any direction that will hinder your performance. So there's something I need to bring attention to real quick. The difference between a hinge and a squat. So when you hinge, your butt should be going towards the wall behind you. That's the only motion that should happen there. And you can hinge pretty deep if you're flexible and have the mobility. And when you begin to hinge, you'll feel it in your hamstrings. They'll start to stretch and they'll start to get tight, and that's how you know you're hinging. Now, a common mistake that I see when people try to hinge is that they start from the top of the thoracic spine, meaning that in order to execute this movement, what they're doing is bending forward. The cue to help you get past that is by placing your hands here, and you need to act like the top of your body and the bottom of your body is a part of Pac-Man's mouth. What you want to do is eat your hands. So eat the hands, eat the hands, eat the hands. Do you see how that's different than this? Hands ain't even eating. My hands are flying away. Now you know how to hinge. What I'm doing right now is setting up for my next exercise, and this is one of the most important things that you need to do. If you're gonna start a new movement, it could be a new movement pattern. You could be using 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 arm, 1 leg, it doesn't matter. You always need to restart the weight. So I'm unracking the weight. I'm still gonna be using the safety bar, which is 65 pounds, by the way. But I'm gonna be doing a lunging movement. And with that, yes, I'm primed because I just lifted the weight of the world on my shoulders and legs. But I need to make sure that my body mechanics are correct. I need to make sure that everything is set up properly so I don't injure myself. You wanna look good and perform just as well. If not, you'll be coming to my office so I can fix you up. It's your favorite doc, and then Deezy we trust. Check out this exercise that I'm about to hit you with. Look at that perfect squat. Okay, so what we're gonna be doing is good mornings. We're gonna do it seated so that we take out activation of the quads and velocity of trying to get the bar up. I'm gonna use a safety bar for this because there's grips here, but you can easily do it with a regular barbell with your shoulder externally rotated to hold the bar on top of your traps. To set up, you wanna make sure that your pelvis is tucked in. You expand your abdominal cavity and brace. So now all of this is secure. Next, you wanna make sure you have ample room to forward flex. So you wanna make sure that you open your legs up enough so that you can actually perform the movement. Once you're braced and in position, all you're gonna do is forward flex. It's just that simple. But you wanna make sure that you keep your back nice and erect. And after you get to a certain point, you'll feel your glutes activate. I don't know if you can see me shaking, but I am trying to hold this position for the greater good. And you're gonna thrust your glutes forward so that you come back up. You wanna make sure you're not arching your back and going down. And I know you're gonna do that because you're gonna think that that's what your back looks like straight. You're gonna think it feels straight, and I'm gonna tell you it's not straight. Make sure you follow my instructions, remain aligned, and get some gains. This will also help your flexibility and mobility. All right, I got a problem with y'all, because every time y'all want to work core, the only thing that y'all do is planks. Your core is meant to stabilize you, but you do way more than just sit in a straight line. We're gonna do something functional, which is gonna require us to cross multiple planes while engaging our core. I have a weight in my hand, and what I'm gonna do is touch the floor and add a rotational component. This is gonna require core strength, spinal mobility, and shoulder strength. You need to make sure your shoulder girdle is stable for this because you don't want the weight to start flying everywhere. So use an appropriate weight. We're gonna press the weight above our head, and what I'm going to do is rotate and go all the way down and keep the weight above my head. You see how important it is to have shoulder girdle strength? If I start to lose it at any point, that weight is going on top of me, it's going in front of me, it's going behind me, and just like that, I lose my contract into MLB. I'm about to cool down and then hit some sprints on the treadmill. Take away some keys, some notes, some new things that you didn't know before. I'm really just here to help educate you and help you perform safer and more effectively. I really want to see you succeed, especially if it could have been prevented. I mean, that they've seen my content, which I'm forever grateful for. Know that I can inspire and help people and actually provide knowledge to help you succeed in your lifts. A lot of people come to my office all the time, and I can easily spot out their body mechanics when I do a functional assessment. So anything I can do here to help you succeed and execute properly, I'm here for it. Anything you want me to do, cover, talk about, show, let me know. My muscles are for go and for show. So I'll do it all just for you. Until next time, in Nandeezy we trust.